Well, welcome to today's Wednesday Walkabout. This is going to be a very special entry because we're going to not only walk forward, I guess, but we're going to walk backwards in time and forward into the future. Why? Because today is my 67th birthday. And on my birthday, I am always very, very reflective about the year past, and boy, has it been a year past, and the year ahead. So I'm really trying to do a lot of things. I'm trying to both appreciate, savor, but also reset some of the things that I really want to improve upon to live an even richer life. So why don't we just take a little stroll backward in time and forward in time to hear some of my resolutions. I'm somebody who typically kind of makes their resolutions on their birthday, not so much at New Year's. And you might be able to relate to some of them. So why don't we just do this? We will just have kind of a stream of consciousness session, what I've been thinking about. And I just thought you might enjoy it, and it might kind of catalyze some thoughts and some ideas in your head. Well, in my 67th year, I am really reassessing what, in terms of my health, in terms of beauty, in terms of longevity, I'm looking at a lot of different things. So first, reassessing from my 66th year. I would say that towards the end of the year, probably because I was extremely busy doing a lot of things. For the first time in my adult life, I really felt like I was not exercising regularly. And I wasn't even necessarily making it a priority. Now, do I ever sit down? No. Do I do lots of walking? Yes. But I nevertheless wasn't doing the weightlifting, the resistance training. My trainer, Johanna, moved to California, and I just used that as an excuse, both my work life and the fact that my personal life was just so chaotic. I used that as an excuse. Well, there are no excuses. So in my 67th year, I am going to reset my resolve, get back to the person that I was that really made exercising a priority, and I'm just going to get back in some kind of routine. So what am I going to do? Well, now that I live in this new neighborhood, and I am motivated by a couple of things. I'm motivated by the fact that I have wonderful new neighbors. I'm also motivated by the fact that so much is walkable. I'm also motivated by the fact that Leah has now blessedly entered our lives, and she is an avid yoga advocate. And so I think I want to start doing some of those kinds of things. We might even, Leah, we've even talked about this, trying to get hubs involved in some yoga. And the place that you go to is nearby, is it not? So okay, so I can walk there from here. So I'm going to start doing that yoga again, not just for my physical state of being, but also for my mental state of being. I have been a practitioner of yoga in the past, but for different reasons that kind of went on the wayside. Okay, so that is a goal number one. Secondly, something that I'm really concerned about, at least in a proactive way before it gets to be a problem, and that is the fact that I am a poster child for someone prone to osteopenia, osteoporosis. I'm blue-eyed, I am slightly built, it runs in my family, and it is just imperative that to prevent bone loss, that resistance training is part of the protocol to try to prevent issues down the line. So I need to get back to my resistance training. I am looking for a place to work out. Before Johanna left, we came up with my own outline of exercises, weight-bearing exercises, all sorts of different things, balance exercises that I am intent upon renewing. And so I'm going to start doing those again while I'm in the process of looking for a place to do regular workout, calisthenic kind of workouts that is walkable, because I'll do it if it's walkable, and particularly if I'm doing it with a friend and I have an accountability partner to do it with, because that'll make it fun. And I will feel now like I've got a lot more time, because I don't feel like I'm constantly doing things at the cottage, babysitting at the cottage, waiting for somebody to show up to do something at the cottage. And I will feel, I think, a lot more liberated to be out and about. So I'm looking forward to that. And then thirdly, part of my whole lifestyle shtick in moving to the cottage was that it was more walkable. And so I want to try to increase the number of steps I get in every day. Lately, I haven't even been getting in my 10,000 steps, and I hope to really increase that and not only get some physical exercise, but some mental exercise too. So I'm going to be walking to museums, to the library, to different exhibits. I want to start going to some poetry readings. I want to start really fleshing out the literary, exercising the literary and mental muscle in my head, in addition to my physique. So from a health perspective, that's what I'm looking forward to. I also have not been good about cooking. I think I have shared that with you. I used to cook quite a bit, and lately I just have given myself the excuse I just don't have time. And so I think when things are a little bit less chaotic, I will be able to get back into some kind of rhythm and some kind of pattern that suits Hubs and myself really well. So for example, for him and myself, the optimal time for us to eat our dinner is actually between 3:30 and 4. There are a number of different reasons for that. One is my schedule, my shooting schedule, my schedule in general. And the other is that Hubs gets up very, very early, and he goes to bed very, very early. And so we want to have that window of time after our last meal when we are not eating or drinking any caloric things, so that we're kind of doing the intermittent fasting thing, which I have kind of done just by virtue of my lifestyle. Before I knew it was a thing, I've kind of done most of my adult life, because I just don't have time to eat, or I'm not hungry until noon or 2. So from that perspective, that's what we are going to be working on. And in terms of substance, like everybody, I'm really going to try to cut back on my processed carbs, on carbs in general. And that will make it easier on that, because we're getting ready to go into dry January, which Hubs and I have done for the past 3 or 4 years, I think. And so we'll be doing that again in January. So that will really help me get started, get my mojo going physically, mentally, for the new year. And I challenge you, and this is my question of the day, to please comment below what big and little things you are going to do in the coming year to rev up your health profile. And I've kind of given you the macro setting for what I hope to do. And then certainly in January, I really hope to talk a lot about certain incremental things that I will be doing, so that we can eat that elephant one bite at a time to become healthier. One feedback that I got so much over when we did the house tour was, would I please share my skincare regimen? And so we're going to be doing that in January. We're going to talk about skincare products, my skincare regimen, any kind of treatments or procedures that I have, and we'll be talking about that in January. So Stuart, what do you say we move on to another segment of reflection and forward thinking? Well, I am not going to lie. My voice has been permanently raspy for how many days now? Leah, you were telling me that you noticed it too, because I have done so much talking recently. We just had a wonderful, wonderful time at the home tour. There were people from absolutely everywhere, from Maryland, Missouri, Kansas City, Arkansas, Dallas, Arizona, not to mention every nook and cranny and suburb in and around Oklahoma City. And can't tell you how much fun it was and how much I appreciated and how flattered I was by everyone coming. Lots of people got their books signed, lots of people got their journals signed, and hopefully they just enjoyed seeing the cottage and how we'd kind of decked some things out for the holidays. And by the way, coming up this weekend, we are going to share some of my easiest, quickest to execute holiday decor ideas. We're going to do a rundown of those this coming weekend. And that kind of leads me into things that I do for this wonderful, fun work life that I have. And I'm thinking about my work-life balance. For so many years, I was talking with a girl who wanted to know about how do you get into garden consulting. She asked how I got into doing gardening consulting and how you kind of grow your business, especially if you are like me and you're self-taught and you don't have any professional gravitas or professional certification. And I just said, you just do it. You put in your 10,000 hours, and then above and beyond that, you not only do the work, but you say yes to every opportunity, whether it pays or not. But as long as it's providing a service and it is advancing whatever your personal message and mission are. And for me, that was to advance the cause, the art, the practice, the joy of gardening. And so for when I first started out professionally, I just said yes to everything. I said, whether I got paid for it or not. I just would do everything. If somebody asked me to do a workshop, if somebody asked me to do a TV spot, if somebody asked me to do a radio show, whether I got compensated for it or not, I just said yes to everything. Well, now I'm at the point in my work life where I don't have that as a luxury anymore. Whether it's paid or it's not paid, I just can't say yes to everything. And I have to be a little bit more discriminating about what I do and what I want to do and where I want to go, because I ain't getting any younger. And I want to make sure that I spend the time that I have both in work and in my personal life doing things that speak to my own personal mission, my own personal value set, and things that are important to me. And so as much as I love doing a lot of things, I just don't have that kind of time luxury anymore. So I'm going to try to be more discriminating about that. I think most importantly, and both Leah and Stuart are here, they're going to chime in. We don't do anything if it's not fun. If it's not with people we enjoy working with, and if it's something that we think doesn't perform some kind of service for our community, which is you, because that's how we get something in return. Is it makes us all feel good about ourselves, and it makes us feel like we are part of a community, even if it's only a virtual one. So I think that we're just going to continue with that mantra. If it ain't fun, don't do it. And the other thing is we all are exploding just creativity-wise. We really want to tap into that creative muscle. So we're going to be playing around with a lot of different things, some of which you may like, some you may not like, some I may decide I don't like, but that's how you learn. If you don't fail, you're not trying hard enough. And so we're going to be trying a lot of new fun things that are different ways that we can communicate things that we're passionate about. And there'll be a learning curve to it. But again, I'm learning how to, if I can't say yes to everything, I can say yes to certain things, and that is yes to taking a few more risks. Because if not now, when? Again, I ain't getting any younger. And this moment in time, I am the youngest I'll ever be and the oldest I've ever been. And so I think that I really am taking that into account. And so I think we all need to take that into account.
What a statement, too, yeah.
Well, I didn't make that up.
Oh, yeah. It's just good.
But it is so true. Leah's going like a dagger to my heart. But it's something that's not only true for me, it's true for Leah, it's true for Stuart, it's true for our mutual friend Peyton. It's just true for all of us. And so that is the lens that I am looking through. And I want to meet and create and work with different kinds of people than I have in the past. I think some people I didn't handle it very well when Leah joined this past year, and I didn't formally introduce her as I should. I didn't exercise good YouTube manner, good YouTube etiquette. But it has been a blast working with Leah and the energy and the style that she's infused to this channel. And I want to do that with more people, both younger than myself and, as importantly, older than myself, because I want lots of people in my life to share their wisdom through me to you, because I have learned so much from them. And we all at any age need mentors. So in terms of my work life, I think that's one of the things that I'm really going to focus on in terms of very specific things. And I'm still deciding. I need to check my calendar, but in March, I've been asked to be a headline speaker for the home and garden shows both in Indiana and in Oklahoma. I'm going to be going to Scotland with Garden Gate Magazine in June. I'll be speaking in La Jolla, California at a garden club in January. Then there's always the regular lots of workshops and things that I do in addition to this YouTube channel, in addition to public appearances around, and then most importantly, digging in my own garden and sharing that with you on YouTube. So those are just some of the things I'm thinking about that I've got coming up. And then I have a twinkle in my eye about something that isn't confirmed, but I may be doing. It's a project I've kind of just come up with this weekend, and it may or may not come to fruition, but that's a big tease. And
yeah, they're not gonna get anything more.
Yeah, you're not going to get anything more. It's a big tease, but it is something that I think will be maybe more fun than anything I have ever done.
Ooh.
And at least for me personally, because it just taps into lots of things that I like and creativity. So that will be fun. And it's also going to be, I am hoping, a real opportunity for me to learn some new skills that I have been wanting to learn for a long, long time. So that's just a big tease. That's a little bit about my work life and self-actualization. And so that's kind of fun. So Stuart, what do you say we move on to some of my reflections and aspirations on home and garden? Well, I definitely think that every year, as I am reflecting and thinking into the future about reflecting and projecting, let's put it that way, on different aspects of health, life, work, those kind of things. I'm also thinking about my own personal style, and I have really recently wanted to just mix it up a little bit, partly because so much of what I do involves walking a lot more, so comfort is being taken into account. I'm really, really focusing recently on looking at style of women that are not only my age, but older than my age. And then also, because Leah's been around, ways that I can kind of infuse a youthful energy into my wardrobe, into my accessories, into my makeup, into my hairstyle, things like that. And I think that's really a fun thing to do. It typically costs nothing. I think you can anticipate a lot of thrift store visits in the future, and a lot more my way, her way, in terms of different outfits and things that we put together. And I'm looking forward forward to that. But basically, I just kind of want to mix it up a little bit. I don't want to get staid in my appearance. I think that's fun. I might take some fashion risks, some of which you may like, some you may not like, some I may like, some I may not like, but you know what? Why not? Yeah. I mean, why not? What's the downside of trying something like that, other than maybe making a fool out of yourself? And I don't really care about that either, because God knows I have done that many, many a time. So that's what I'm thinking about in terms of my wardrobe, my personal style. But I'm really taking into account kind of my new lifestyle since I've moved to the cottage, and how I want to express myself, express my personality, not only in my garden and in my home, but also in the way I comport myself, dress myself, and style myself. So, Stuart, speaking of garden, why don't we go out there for a bit?
Well, I think I have talked ad nauseum about one of the reasons being that I wanted to move to the cottage, and that was to have a blank slate to start a new garden. And you guys have been so great about following along. You've taken this pilgrimage with me, and the journey has just really been spectacular. And I cannot wait. You know, I've gotten almost a full year here in the garden, though it hasn't been obviously completed, but I haven't had like all of the expression of the seasons as I know them. So I'm so looking forward to an explosion of tulips next spring, and some of the things that are my signature touches that have now been installed, and I have yet to see them manifested. So I'm really, really waiting for that. Another impetus in moving to the cottage is that I wanted to start doing more entertaining. And I really think, even though nothing is complete out here, 100% out here in the garden or inside the cottage, it's been complete enough that I have felt comfortable in entertaining. I've already had Thanksgiving here. How much time, you guys, have we already spent out here around the fire pit in this backyard living room? And we haven't even had the fire pit for that long. And it has been already, I can tell you, it has been some of the best money I have spent on this landscape, even though it's technically not a garden feature. But we have loved it. I have friends who just dropped by after work for a glass of wine or to see the holiday decorations. My neighbors come over. We have impromptu little gatherings, little fetes on the social patio in front. It's been absolutely lovely. And I can't wait to do even more of that going into the new year, into my 67th year, when I'll be doing more of the cooking and more of really living the garden lifestyle that I want to live, because now that my raised beds are in place, I'll actually have a full season to start growing some of the edibles, and that's going to be fun. And I can't wait to just see how the different areas of the garden, once the light changes, identifying those spaces that are optimal for entertaining, say when the viburnum is in bloom, or when the tulips are in bloom, or when the tomatoes are at their best. So I'm really looking forward to adapting my entertaining time frames to gardening seasons and garden experiences that are happening at that point in time. So that's been really, really fun. And in terms of my home, I just have loved the way that we have been able to reuse so many of the things that we had at the other house. I'm so thrilled that Homeworthy is going to be coming this Friday to take a home tour and share it with you. I love the way that I feel as if the projects here have been collaborative between not only myself and my family, but myself and you. So you guys gave me your input on where the TV should be placed. You gave me your input and sometimes your thoughts on whether or not you liked the position of the rain barrel in the garden. Which way I should I turn the parlor into a dining room, or should I leave it as a parlor? All those different kinds of things. And it has been so fun to get your ideas, to weigh them, to see if they really are practical for me, both aesthetically and in a way that we actually have to live in our house. Stuart has often pointed out that our lives would be a lot easier if the cottage itself really were just a studio, and not a place where Hubs and I live. And I'm sure it was one of the reasons, not that I'm comparing myself in any way to her, but I'm sure it's one of the reasons that years ago Martha Stewart quit shooting her TV show at her home and moved into a studio, because there are just lots of things that are problematic when you live where you work. But I also think that that's the appeal, because if you're like me, you like being a voyeur into Martha's life or anyone else's life in a very real way, not in a sanitized, cleaned up, scrubbed down, and perfected way. I hope to eventually show you something in its completed form when it's attained the level of perfection that I can attain. But nevertheless, I want you to see the nitty gritty, the behind the scenes stuff, the fact that you guys can see where I keep my dustbuster. To me, that's all part of it. And it's part of the texture and the charm of living. And if you say yes to some of it, you say yes to all of it. You say yes to when everything is perfect at the end and ready for a home tour, but you say yes to the mess before you get to that stage, because that's what helps you think through the process of attaining whatever kind of creative vignette you've got in your head, or at least that's kind of how I think about it. It's been so fun. The back is pretty much complete. The front is pretty much complete. Yes, I'm still waiting for my railings, but they've been ordered. Yes, I'm still waiting for some finials, but they are in process. Yes, the gate needs a little bit of work, but for the most part, it's complete. And now I just need to wait for things to fill in. We are going to, I'm not sure when, Stuart, but we have promised that we are going to answer some of the questions I get over and over and over again. Like a lot of you were wondering about the new table that I have for outside, and you liked the glass tabletop better than you like the wood tabletop, and will it be waterproof and things like that. Well, I'll answer that question right now. The tabletop comes off. The glass is still underneath there. And so I can remove the tabletop, and if we're getting into the hardest part of winter, I can put it in the garage, even though, yes, it is waterproofed. Will it age? Yes, it will age, and that's exactly what I want, because I'm a gal who loves patina, and it will age and gray over time, and I like that. No, it doesn't have an umbrella that goes down through the center of it, but yes, an umbrella can be staged at the side next to the table. It doesn't need to go right down through the heart of it. So those are the kind of questions and answers that I'm sure have you just riveted to the screen, wondering if I'm ever going to answer them. And some of those we are going to try to answer them: garden related, home related, personally related. As you can understand, probably we get lots of comments, lots of feedback, and it's hard for me to address all of those in a personal way, but we do the best we can. So, Stuart, that's kind of it. That's reflections on home and garden. And now let's do one final closing on just reflections about the year past and how I feel about it.
Really good cake. Yes, I did just say that I'm going to try to reduce processed carbs, and maybe sweets in particular, but sweet Leah did just bring me this delicious cake, and it's still my birthday. And I think it's also a lesson in moderation in all excess and none. So I am not someone who is going to deny myself the earthly pleasure of this delicious cake and a cup of coffee on my birthday. So I'm somebody that historically, until fairly recently, I would say until about the past 5 years, really never made a big deal about her birthday. I grew up, I was one of 10 kids, so even though it was acknowledged, it was never that big of a deal. There were just too many of us. And I think so much of my growing up life, I was just always trying not to make anything more difficult for my parents, not make any more fuss. So it was just kind of like, stay low on the radar screen. You just kind of really didn't want to I don't know, make too much of a fuss about anything, or perhaps more importantly, expect anyone to make too much of a fuss about you. Well, I think when I got to be an adult, I recognized the error of my ways. And so, hell yeah, it's my birthday. Hell yeah, Leah, I'm thrilled, brought me a cake. Stuart, I'm sure you've got a present for me out in the car. And now I revel in it. If somebody wants to take me to breakfast for my birthday, oh yes. If someone can't celebrate it today, then yes, by all means, we can celebrate it tomorrow. And I think it's just, I think it's an expression of self-confidence that you feel you're worthy enough of people paying attention to you and celebrating the fact that you are on this planet. And so I think that's a good thing. I think one of the advantages of getting older is you recognize that that's okay. It's okay. I think in my 66th year, when I look back on it, I don't know if somebody can be simultaneously exhausted and exhilarated, but I am simultaneously exhausted and exhilarated. And when I think back of what all has happened in the past year, even I am pretty dumbfounded at how far we've come. And Hubs and I, the other night before we went out to dinner, we were talking about it, and it was just about a year ago that we closed on this house. I think it was December 27th that we closed on the cottage. And he said something that I think was very astute. He said, I think we were stale, we were going stale, and we just didn't know it. And I said, well, I think I knew that we were going stale, but I think it took me a while to be brave enough to do anything about it. And I think by maybe writing the book, that gave me some closure on that garden, and I was ready to say goodbye to it. And again, I never wanted to feel as if I was moving away from something as much as I was moving to something. So I think that's that tension between exhaustion and exhilaration. I am so exhilarated by the fact that I don't have to do all of this again. Was it fun? Yes. Was it exhausting? Yes. Was it expensive? Yes. And I just now want to enjoy the fruits of my labor. And I think all of you guys want to enjoy the fruits of my labor too, so that I'm not constantly in a state of angst over the next decision to be made. I am ready to give myself some downtime. I am ready for January and a huge stack of books in front of the fire. I am ready to spend a little bit more time on myself and getting healthy than just feathering my nest and getting my nest in place. And so I think I'm ready to do that. I think what has been really surprising to me is that I am not a brave person. I am not a brave person at all. And the fact that I am very resistant to change, and yet we made this great big change, I'm proud of myself for that.
And you should be.
And because Stuart knows it was hard. And I'm going to take this moment and pat myself on the back. So I'm proud of myself for being brave. Growing up, there was a lot of instability. You know, my mom died. I just wasn't really sure about things. I always was insecure about what was going to happen next, where we were going to move next or whatever. And I think now that I have gotten older and maybe a little bit wiser, I have realized that change can be really good, and it can be full of potential, and it can be full of excitement, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I would also say that when you make a decision and it turns out to be a good one, and not all decisions are, it's very reinforcing. And Hubs and I were also saying that if we had tried to imagine what could be the very best case scenario of making this change, you know, let's look at what can go right instead of what could go wrong. In our wildest imaginings, we never could have imagined how brilliantly this has all turned out. How much we love it, how much I love the area, how much I love my new neighbors, how much more youthful I feel, how much more excited I am, how embraced and loved I feel by my neighbors, and what a privilege it is to make a contribution to a neighborhood like this, because I have never felt that community is quite as important as it is now. And maybe because I see the tension and the contrast between the fact that I have so much of it in my life and there's so little of it in the world right now. And to the extent that I can share what community I have with you guys, and you by extension share your community with me, that is, oh my goodness, that is synergizing in a way it's hard for me to express. So I just want more of that in the future. I want more of that in the coming year. I want even more joy in my life. And I don't think, what was it, Stuart? You or Leah were saying that they think that they think there's never enough, that there's a finite amount of things, and that there's just not enough for all of us. There is enough for all of us. There really is enough for all of us. There's enough style, there's enough grace, there's enough kindness, there's enough compassion, but you have to decide to manifest it yourself. And I haven't always been good about that. But as I've gotten older, I have learned not to be so much of a dour person, and I have learned to really look for the good. And I know that sounds kind of corny, but it hasn't always been that way in my life. And it was something that I had to learn. And I had a lot of wonderful teachers along the way. So that's kind of my reflection on the past year. And my reflection on going into the year is that all I can do is the best that I can do given what I have in the moment. And I think probably the best, when I think back on things that I've been taught this year, I need to tell my friend Matt across the street, my new friend Matt across the street, when we were putting together the solo fire pit, and I think I shared it with you before, and I have thought of it 1,000 times since then. And he said, humans find happiness in solving problems. And when I reframed every little frustration of my life in that, oh, okay, this is frustrating, but if I solve this frustration, I will be happier. And when I started reframing every little vexation, every little annoyance, every challenge, big or small, in that way, that it will make me happier to endure and be tenacious enough to come up with resolution or a solution or the best that I can do, it has indeed made me happier. And so with a great big dose of reframing, I am going into the new year optimistic that any problem I encounter will hopefully make me happier in the long run. And what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. We are stronger at the broken places. And I am just looking forward for my community, for my team here, and for my family, that my 67th year is going to be even better than my 66th year. So on that note, I can't thank you guys for being such a special part of my life and making me feel not older, but younger every day. Take care.